Apple's dominance in the creator space is officially under attack, and the threat isn't coming from Sony or Canon. It is coming from a company that literally just bought their way into Hollywood. You have probably seen the leaks and heard the whispers since Nikon acquired Red Digital Cinema, but the supply chain is now spilling massive details about the upcoming Nikon Z8 II, and honestly, Cupertino needs to pay attention. We are talking about an insane 8.3K REDCODE RAW mirrorless hybrid that might actually embarrass the highly touted video capabilities on your shiny new iPhone 15 Pro Max. If you are a professional filmmaker deeply entrenched in the Apple ecosystem, you might be seriously questioning your daily driver very soon. According to a massive supply chain drop from Ming-Chi earlier this week, Nikon isn't holding back Red's legendary color science for their massive, expensive cinema rigs. He confirmed the Z8 II will be the absolute first mirrorless camera in the Z-mount family to feature completely internal 12-bit REDCODE RAW. Let that sink in for a second. We aren't just getting Nikon's proprietary in RAW format anymore. You get the actual industry-standard Hollywood color science, and the legendary IPP2 workflow built right into a weather-sealed body that fits inside a normal Peak Design backpack. Honestly, I'll believe it when I see it perfectly executed without massive thermal throttling. But if they pull this off, it is going to put the entire video industry on permanent notice. For solo creators, this totally eliminates the need for expensive external monitors or annoying proxy workflows. Mark Gurman actually hinted in his latest private newsletter that Apple engineers are keeping a very close eye on this specific merger. Apple's ProRes RAW never quite got the massive industry takeover they hoped for, partly because of Red's incredibly aggressive patent enforcement. Now Nikon holds all those patents. Do you guys think Apple is actually worried about this shift? Or is the iPhone just living safely in its own untouchable bubble? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments because I read every single one. Now let's talk about the sensor, because Mac Otakara just corroborated some wild specifications that change everything. We are looking at a brand new 45.7 megapixel fast scan stack CMOS sensor. I know a lot of you were begging for a global shutter after Sony made their big splash, but Nikon deliberately took a different route to preserve pure dynamic range. DG Times reports that this fast scan architecture has a readout speed so insanely high that rolling shutter is effectively a thing of the past. You can pan at crazy high speeds or track fast-moving subjects without getting that awful jello effect we hate. Because it isn't a true global shutter, Nikon actually managed to keep their legendary base ISO 64 and hit a dynamic range that exceeds 15 stops. Compare that to the tiny sensor tech we see constantly crammed into our smartphones. The iPhone does a lot of heavy lifting with computational photography, but pure optical physics wins every time. Powering this monster is the all-new EXPEED AI processor. The ELEC is reporting that the manufacturing here might be leveraging advanced TSMC 3nm yields to keep power consumption low, while pushing massive compute performance. Nikon calls their new autofocus system predictive intent tracking. Instead of just reacting to a subject's current position, the EXPEED literally uses spatial movement patterns and deep learning to predict exactly where it is going next. Whether it is a bird diving through some branches or a sports car flying around a blind corner, the camera targets zero-miss reliability. It is the exact kind of seamless integration between hardware and software we usually only praise Apple for delivering. The autofocus points now cover nearly 100% of the sensor, and the low-light sensitivity has been pushed to an absurd -10 electron volts. If your human eye can see it in the dark, the Z8 II can track it. But here is where things get genuinely wild, and honestly, where I'm the most skeptical. The heat management. We all remember the painful overheating wars over the past few years, with almost every major camera brand. Heck, we routinely see heavy thermal throttling on M-series MacBooks when pushing sustained max loads in Final Cut Pro. Shrimp Apple Pro leaked that the Z8 II is designed to shoot 8.3K at 60 frames per second continuously with absolutely no active cooling fans. No bulky vents. Just a sealed pro-grade chassis, surviving extreme high-pressure environments without throwing a temperature warning light. Wait, really? Pushing 8.3K 60 RAW internally with no fan? If they somehow bypass the thermal limits that plague modern mirrorless bodies, it gives hybrid shooters zero reason to compromise. On top of that, they are pushing 4K to the limit with 120 frames per second oversampled directly from the full 8K readout, meaning your slow-motion footage retains the exact same crisp detail as your standard shots. And for the audio nerds out there, we are finally getting internal 32-bit float audio directly inside a Nikon body. This is an absolute game-changer. Documentary filmmakers and solo wedding shooters don't have to stress about manually writing their gain levels anymore. If the audio spikes unexpectedly, you just bring it back down in post-production without clipping. It is essentially raw data for your sound. Apple heavily markets spatial audio and studio mics on their devices, but built-in 32-bit float on a hybrid camera is the exact safety net that saves hours of editing nightmares. Let's pivot to the design and displays. The chassis is still constructed from that premium pro-grade magnesium alloy and carbon fiber, but Ross Young dropped some numbers on the electronic viewfinder that blew my mind. We are looking at a 9.44 million Ultra OLED panel, pushing a peak brightness of 2000 nits. That matches the outdoor peak brightness of the Super Retina XDR display on the latest iPhones. Imagine shooting out in direct blinding sunlight, and your EVF is actually bright enough to judge perfect exposure. It boasts a 240 Hz refresh rate, giving you a true zero blackout experience that makes the electronic shutter feel completely natural. To handle these massive data rates, Nikon updated the dual card slots to twin CFexpress Type B, ditching the mixed slot nonsense for maximum speed and redundancy. There is also a major rumor regarding a new Nikon cloud integration that relies on 5G tethering. You could be shooting on location while your low-res proxies silently upload in the background to your editor's Mac Studio halfway across the world. So when can you buy it and how much is it going to hurt your wallet? Based on supply chain cycles, expect an official announcement in late 2026. The projected price point is supposedly a highly disruptive $4,999 in the US. $5,000 isn't cheap, but when you factor in the massive Apple tax we gladly pay for maxed-out laptops just to edit this kind of footage, getting genuine Hollywood cinema tech for under $5,000 is a steal. Are you holding out for the next iPhone Pro? Or is internal Red RAW enough to make you switch systems completely? Let me know.